Welcome to the New York Outlook for Tuesday, the 28th of November 2023. Referring to the economic calendar, we've got one red folder news event at 5 p.m., which is roughly 2 hours from now. Actual greater than forecast is good for the USD. Given how we currently position, the idea would be that consumer confidence is boosted, which would make the USD stronger and causing GBPUSD to move downwards. In terms of the charts I'll be going through, I'll only be going through GBPUSD because EURUSD is not in a favorable position to trade for the day, and we'll reevaluate that tomorrow. Jumping into the GBPUSD daily chart, what you can see is yesterday we effectively took we reached the target for the day being the structural liquidity and this fair value gap, and now the objective being, because today is day 4 of the fourth bullish candle, making it unlikely that the day will close bullish, we're playing the idea of potential reversals in an ERL continuation momentum scenario. To justify or explain the ERL continuation momentum scenario, essentially we have broken beyond the void substructure and we've continued to put candles that make higher highs. The ERL continuation momentum scenario will end when we create a new swing higher high, and that will be created when the next candle closes with a wick lower than the previous day. Until then, the ERL continuation momentum scenario will continue. I'm trying to see if I can find an example to illustrate what I mean. But it doesn't seem to be any close by. I guess when we come across it again, I will demonstrate what I mean. In terms of the 4-hour, similar to the daily, we are significantly trending above ERL. Yesterday the target was reached, price had time to settle the dust, and the next continuation long bias target would be this daily target. However, for today, like I said, we are considering shorts as well as longs, purely for the fact of the daily bias and the fact that the daily target was reached. However, given the significant bullish momentum and the confirmed market structure, the underlying objective remains to play the longs, hence why this scenario calls for playing both longs and shorts. Jumping into the hourly chart and explaining the trade I took from this morning. So what you will see, I think the key thing to unpack this complexity is to understand the leg we're trading from, right? So what I'm going to show you now is this leg, right? This is the pro-trend leg. It is the pro-trend leg because it's the leg that came from candle body breaking the void swing structure, which then make these 1-hour POIs where demand is still in control. Yes, we had the shock, but demand remains in control. Valid to trade from because they are part of the pro-trend leg, and given the significant narrative backing behind them, they make sense to trade. So what you can then see is we broke higher than this, we came in, we broke higher, what a body break, validating this. However, we wick this, signaling a change of character. This change of character then created this primary leg OB for the purposes of the ERL reversal. The primary leg then justifies or helps justify where we can validate new order flow shifts from. I'll explain further as we go down the time frames, but as of this morning, we could essentially use yesterday's low of the day to the extreme to identify where the discount area for this leg was, which then validated an entry from this point. Moving on to the 30-minute, you can see a similar situation is playing out. However, on the 30-minute, you've got this change of character with price coming down, up, and there was potentially a change of control here. But all that's doing is just further validating the primary leg right here. From that point onwards, you can see there was another change of character, which is off the back of this pro trend OB, part of the pro trend leg, that then validates this new pro trend area, which can validate new longs. However, this entry here specifically is based on the order flow from the pro trend leg. Remember, in an ERL continuation momentum scenario, we don't necessarily need IRL, because yesterday's target was achieved, and that's when we stopped trading, right? And we let the dust settle for us to see what price does. However, when it comes to the next day, these targets have been met, which then justifies the next target. Because of the momentum, like I said, we don't need IRL. So what then happens is we create this primary leg. But on the hourly, we only have the change of character. We don't have a full order flow shift to validate the shorts or to invalidate the long idea. Remember, the pro trend long idea can only be invalidated when order flow shifts from a pro trend leg perspective, or the pro trend idea, the ERL idea is invalidated such that we need void backing to re-establish a primary leg to enable us to then target the next void swing high. In this case, the void swing high is not established, hence we can rely on this pro trend leg, and the fact that 1 hour demand is still in control, it justifies this OB, right? Moving on to the 15-minute. So now that we know that we've got two primary legs, one supporting the short reversals under the ERL continuation momentum reversal scenario, and one primary leg off the back of the pro trend OBs supporting longs. So given this narrative, we took the longs based on the evidence suggesting where the next or the most likely area for the low of the day to be, which was this area, hence we entered here. However, subsequent to this, we now have reason to trade short, right? So we've got this primary leg OB here with the OB situated with a primary leg OB situated here, which can help us validate order flow shifts in this area. Remember, in these situations you need precise OBs, which I guess the 5 and 15 I use it somewhat interchangeably. So we can go to the 5-minute, and you'll see there's a change of character, a full order flow validation, but at this point you can see demand regain control. So maybe let's just stick with a 15-minute for now. So on the 15-minute, you got your supply control with no signs of demand taking control from this point, right? Given that supply is in control based on this primary leg and this high of the day establishment, we can then take our shorts based on discount area of this range. I chose to put my stop above the high of the day, given the complexity and the potential for two entries in opposing directions to be traded. When this entry was triggered, this entry was then made break even. This is based on the premise that there's really no reason to keep this open if when the momentum kicks in, it's going to either push through or it's not. So on that idea, when we take this entry, we accept the loss and we break this even. In most situations, there's enough place for price to move before invalidating one idea or the other. So when this entry was triggered, I then broke even this, and as you can see now, just before or just at the New York Open, this entry was indeed break even, which then I'm just gonna hide this for now, which then leaves this trade open with this break-even point. And the idea being to reach this fair value gap as the daily target for the reversal. We will break even this trade once we wick this level. What I did want to also touch on is the fact that we've got this primary leg, which then gives us these OBs to help give us areas to validate new order flow shifts on. So the 5-minute order flow shifted after creating a new low of the day in London. Low of the day, London. Given that the low of the day is in London, it's still under the idea that this could be the low of the day, right? We don't know for certain. Then subsequent to that, you've got your chalk, and this didn't body break, so we can assume it just swept the liquidity, and then demand held and made a break of structure right here. So I'm just marking this up as well, but what I'm referring to, why is this not working, is this level here. So there's your break of structure. So you've got your break of structure there, and then demand to control. So I guess the question now is, why didn't you consider taking a long entry from here? Because if you look at it, there's a change of character right here, and demand was still in control, so theoretically you could enter here, right? You could theoretically enter like that, but the thing is, you're already far better positioned in a long entry right here, so why over risk and expose yourself when you're already well positioned in two entries that can go either way? Also, there was always the fact that this high of the day held and this entry remained open was a sign that there's a chance that this would remain the high of the day, which then, had we actually made a new high of the day, then we could say, okay, this high of the day isn't holding, and perhaps the new high of the day is indication to continue the longs, in which case this chain would have continued and we'd look to continue longing in the New York session. But it was just a matter of ensuring that you don't over risk yourself unnecessarily, given the complexity of today's PA with the multiple primary legs and then justifying the order flow. In terms of what's happening here, so this was secondary OBs to this primary leg OB. Let me just mark this up, primary leg OB, and so were these, right? So now that these have effectively been used up, the next best option for revalidating a new order flow shift would be either for price to come below where the previous secondary leg failed, or for price to continue to extend the secondary leg by respecting the demand and breaking beyond the highest point. In the case of supplies, you'll need supply to come into here and break this point to continue shorting. However, given that we reasonably well positioned in the reversal direction, it makes a lot more sense to simply just to just base yourself with the entries, leave what was open, and then manage it appropriately. I do want to break even this trade. However, we haven't reached the break even point, and if I break even it now and it taps and comes back, it's not ideal. But anyway, I think it makes sense how I analyzed it. It's just important that I keep in mind that these are secondary OBs and I don't over lever myself into them. The one thing I did want to look into perhaps at a later stage is, you know, we've got these secondary OBs and then they fail. Well, I guess on the 15-minute, this is the chalk and that's coming up and down, and for this to hold it has to break that, and for this to hold it has to break that, so it makes it a bit tricky. But what I'm trying to say is, even though these are secondary OBs that were created from this primary leg, can we justify a new secondary OB just because it came in there? Logically, I don't think it made sense, because I mean we already used up this OB to create that, so why would this continue to make sense? Yeah, well, it looks like we tap this and so the secondary OBs failed. Now we into this secondary OB, we've got this chalk and you've got this order flow on the 5-minute that isn't relevant given what's been going on. So you can consider shorts once we break this level. So let's do that right now. And this will simply say on bar close, consider if additional 15-minute based secondary OBs continue to make sense for shorting towards error reversal intended target. Okay. Okay, so we'll evaluate for that. Just want to mark the end of the session. It should be around here. Honestly, things are not looking great. So we came into here, we had a nice reaction downwards. We then took out our long position. Where is this? Right there, which then got taken out break even, and now it appears that we're pushing up quite a bit, potentially to make a new New York based high of the day, and that New York based high of the day would be evidence to suggest that shorts were the wrong daily direction bias, but we can monitor it. Yeah, this essentially brings me to the end of my New York outlook conclusion. I currently have one trade open with the potential to take some additional trades once we body break this, but yeah, it depends how it plays out. There's also the chance that this will be a loss, but we'll see how it goes. Alright, we'll chat again in the end of day review.